Oh, hey guys, welcome to my Twitch or my YouTube or whatever you're watching this on. I'm here, my name is Bizarre Bryn, and we're excited to have you here to read Year of the Black Rainbow. A little background, if you're new to this stream, awesome. If you're old to this stream, also cool. Thanks for coming back, and thanks for being invested in the story. But if you want to know what is going on, because I feel like that's important, then let me tell you. So we're reading the book Year of the Black Rainbow, which is the prequel to all of the Coheed and Cambria comics. In 2010, they released an album called Year of the Black Rainbow. As you see here. So anything about the lore, about the world, about how they were created, about how they were trained, who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, should be discovered and unfolded in this book. Oh, and lastly, I know I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. I've never read this before, so I might stumble on words. I'm definitely going to repeat myself. I'm doing my best. I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. Okay, you might know what's going on. I don't know who's here. Either way, we're figuring it out together, and we're going to have a good time. I turned off ads, so subscribe if you want to. You do not have to. I appreciate you being here. If you do subscribe, yeah, you can get a free sticker. It's a real sticker. You can stick it on all sorts of stuff. I got those printed from Feel Good Packaging, and all you have to do is slide into my DMs and tell me where to mail it, and I'll mail you a sticker. And I think we're ready. The implanted memories are great. I think they did a wonderful job explaining those in 2014. And I don't think that they have memories. They just have knowledge. I think that in last chapter, they did a really good job of explaining Coheed's sensations in the tube, where he's floating, but he doesn't know what floating is. He doesn't really know what anything is. He's just reacting to sensation. And I think that's a fascinating thing to think about. It's really hard to relate to. I think as humans, you're kind of slowly fed into consciousness. So you have all of your memories, but they ease into you. You don't not exist and then exist. At some point you're like, oh, that's my earliest memory. And that's the thing that I remember first. And then it builds up and you're like, now I'm aware and conscious, and you have all of that childhood. But all of these things where the IRO bots don't have any of that. They just have, I was in a tube, and now I'm fighting this girl who... I have a handful of genetic questions that haven't really been answered yet. Because I do know, spoiler alert, that in the comics, Coheed and Cambria are married, or at least they're a couple. But they're kind of also siblings, because Dr. Hohenberger made both of them in tubes. I do know that Coheed calls Inferno brother, even though they're not really brothers. And I guess genetically, Coheed is more like Inferno's son, and they have the same parents, so are they siblings? But Cambria's genetic makeup is part Prise. And genetically, I don't know where she came from, other than the Prise genetics. But is it Pearl and Prise? Is it just some random human and Prise? Or is it just straight Prise? I don't know. I'm so excited that Coheed and Cambria are here. I'm so excited that we get to watch them fall in love. Amazon is Skynet. Don't. Anyway, are you ready? Are you ready for chapter 10? Sexy beast. Dumb. It's so silly. I just flipped to the page and we've done another timeline shift. We've done another timeline shift. Oh my gosh. This one gives me some warning. And now that I know how this book is written, I have a better idea where we're going, but only kind of. Year of the Black Rainbow, chapter 10. Just past the middle. Timeline-wise, I imagine that this is after the fight in chapter 1. Chapter 10. Magicians. I've got to remember Mayo Deftinwolf's voice. Mayo Deftinwolf reoriented Wilhelm Ryan's work when the general's hollow image appeared in the middle of Ryan's sanctum at the highest point of the high tower of House Atlantic. The general was looking uncommonly angry. This alone was enough to capture Ryan's immediate attention, even if the urgency of the message, sent on high-security, high-speed connection, hadn't been sufficient to do so. "What troubles you, General?" said Ryan, with that silky voice. "Operation on Howling Earth has been terminated, sir." Sure, we'll go with that. This brought Ryan up short. One would never have been able to tell by his outward demeanor, though. "Terminated? I did not order that." "No, sir. You did not. By terminated, I mean it was destroyed by outside agencies." "Outside?" For the first time in his life that he could recall, Wilhelm Ryan was literally at a loss for words. His veins swelled subtly under his skin. After a few moments, he found his voice. "General, there are no outside agencies. Everything that happens on Heaven's fence, every babe who is taking his first tentative steps, every couple that is recklessly fornicating, every wizened man or woman who is gasping their last breath before meeting their no doubt well-deserved end, does so, my knowledge. There is nothing happening anywhere in this entire damned triangle that is beyond my purview. So I say again, what outside agency could possibly intervene in my operations?" "I do not know, sir. I wish I had some sort of answer for you, but they were like nothing I have ever seen. They broke into the middle of the mining operation and they demolished everything they encountered. They unleashed the energies of the keywork back into the void." "Stop," Ryan said firmly, touching his fingers to his oozing forehead in order to help focus himself. "Why is he so gooey?" "Before we deal with the nature of these beings, I need more information. How many in their army?" "Sir, how many? We're obviously overwhelmed by a force of numbers. How many of them were there? 100? 1,000? 2. 2,000? "No, sir. 2. It took long moments for this to sink in on Ryan, and when it did, it required every bit of effort on his part to contain himself. He was resolved to maintain his reserve in front of his most trusted underling, but it was challenging. 2? 2 men demolished the project? 1 man, 1 woman. Once again, Ryan did nothing outwardly to betray what was going through his mind. If he had, it would have involved raising his fists heavenward and screaming in fury. But such displays of obvious frustration were not for such as Wilhelm Ryan. The supreme Tri-Mage simply did not react that way. It wasn't done. "A couple? How sweet," said Ryan. "Perhaps they were on their honeymoon." "Sir?" "Tell me everything that happened, General. Everything that any surviving man may have told you. Everything that you yourself witnessed. Everything." Deftinwolf did so, in as brisk and straightforward a manner as he could. Ryan listened attentively, taking all of it in. He interrupted occasionally with a question, otherwise he said nothing until the general was finished with his detailed accounting. "A couple of lunatics," he said at last, "operating on their own." "Are you certain, sir?" "If it were some manner of organized resistance, there would have been more of them. For that matter, who would be insane enough to organize resistance? Certainly all rational individuals know the inevitable price of such a hopeless undertaking." "Is it possible that there are some who do not? I mean, anything is possible, is it not? Except," he added hastily when he saw Ryan's frosty look, "for your long-term defeat, of course. That's an impossibility." "Yes, it is. It would do well for you to remember that. You should know that as well as anyone." "Which leaves me again wondering," said Deftinwolf, "if there are any who might not see it that way." "You mean aside from the 2 mad people who assaulted you? Although," he said slowly, "the fact that they were successful means one of either of 2 things. That you are astoundingly incompetent, or that they are far more formidable than one could reasonably expect." "Yes, sir," said Deftinwolf with a slight sigh. The last thing he wanted was for Ryan to think that he was inept at his job. Ryan didn't say anything immediately. Instead, deep in thought, he considered the situation, turning over all of this new and unexpected information in his mind. "I suppose it could be, but no." He shook his head. "It's absurd to think that they would involve themselves in this." "They, sir?" "The Prise." "Prise? Certainly they tend to stay above all such considerations. Why now, after all this time, would they attempt to—" "You must not seriously ask why, General, when the answer is right in front of you." "The answer? You mean the Black Rainbow?" "Yes," said Ryan with a sibilant hiss. Yes, if anyone were to have the resources, the sheer arrogance, it would be those insufferable winged creatures. The more I think about it, as much as I hate to admit it, the more it makes sense. You're saying that they saw the black rainbow? Ryan nodded, and decided it was a sign from God that he was angry with them because they kept their hands clear of the Mage Wars, and they're terrified that they need to intervene. But then, of course, why simply send in 2 individuals? If they've decided to become involved, have the Prise ever had the stomach for a direct fight? No. No, they haven't, admitted Ryan. They're not the kind to come straight at me with swords of flaming fury, no. They prefer to remain on high as deliverers of orders to the likes of lowly man, which would mean that they are working with someone. But who? Well, said Ryan thoughtfully, the abilities of the Prise are such that it could literally be anyone. But still, to my knowledge, there is only a handful of individuals who would have the raw clay knowledge that the Prise could mold into a form that suits their needs. Perhaps if you composed a list of possibilities. Yes, excellent idea, General. Once I have composed the list, I will send it to you, and then I'm going to want you to investigate it. But have a care. This will require subtlety. I want a scalpel at work here, not a broadsword. I understand fully, sir. And once we know, then I shall attend to them, General. What of the project? Should we rebuild? We will do nothing until I know precisely what we are dealing with. The project can wait, General. The key work isn't going anywhere. For that matter, neither is the Black Rain. He glanced toward the celestial intruder. Not any time soon, in any event. We have all the time in the world, General, and there is absolutely no need for us to go rushing ahead into a new endeavor. If the Prise are indeed involved in any of this business, that is exactly what they want. For us to act precipitously, and thus perhaps hasten our own downfall. I am disinclined to give them. As am I, sir. Good. But what of your well-being, sir? Ryan almost laughed at that. My well-being, General. Do you truly believe that I somehow am threatened by this man and woman? That they may have demolished our little enterprise, but you are who you are, General, and I am who I am. They pose no threat to me. None pose a threat to me. They might choose to muck around with matters on the Howling Earth. They would not be so foolish as to try to harass me here in my stronghold. If the most that God can do is glower at me on high with his ebony light show, and the most that the Prise can do is try their little manipulations while taking care that my eye never falls upon them, then what possible threat can some man and some woman pose to me, no matter how formidable their personal firepower? Yes, of course, sir. You are naturally quite right. I am pleased we see eye to eye on this, General. Put your feelers out there for the time being, and I shall pass my thoughts on to you shortly. Deftinwolf bowed deeply and vanished. ... It's somebody we haven't heard from in a while. I don't remember his voice either. Oh no. Yeah. There really is ellipses. Whenever I do the ... that's actually how the breaks happen in the chapters. I mean, it's more like begin in the middle. Is that? I mean, this was written in 2010, and I have no idea how old Claudio Sanchez is. He might be Gen X. I mean, I don't think that would surprise me. Did not internet stalk him that hard. Anyway, General Crom, even when he had possessed a face, had not been the most demonstrative of men. General Crom doesn't have a face? General Crom, even when he had possessed a face, had not been the most demonstrative of men. Then, in the service of Marth and under life or death circumstances, Crom's face was outfitted with robotic technology, less a mask than it was a metallic second flesh fused permanently with his own skin and organs, save for a movable portion that allowed him to eat. This advancement came to him courtesy of the same catastrophic injury that had made shambles of his upper body and neck. It was literally nothing for anyone to see, save for the leaden covering. Crom had learned to take a positive outlook and made him even more of an enigma to his enemies, or in this case, enemy. There was only one enemy that mattered to him now, Wilhelm Ryan, the creature who had consigned himself to his pit of nothingness. Since Ryan was so much on the general's mind, Crom was not at all surprised when Wilhelm Ryan appeared in his cell. Then again, General Crom was never surprised at anything. It simply wasn't in his personal makeup. His cell was small. A length of unbreakable chain ran from the metallic wall to the manacles secured around his ankle. The fact that it was unbreakable did not deter Crom from testing its strength every single day. By his reasoning, the fact that it was able to restrain him that day before did nothing to assure that it would hold him on this day or the next. He was typically methodical in that regard, taking nothing for granted. In this same respect, he refused the food that Ryan delivered to him, a decision of endless loyalty to Cosmar. Instead, he chose to meticulously scavenge for food in his cell, preying on everything, rats, to any insect unlucky enough to run, creep, or fly in. Eventually, Ryan no longer sent food at all. When Wilhelm Ryan appeared in his cell, Crom did not react. If nothing else, he didn't want to give Ryan the satisfaction of provoking a response. Besides, the wise soldier, and certainly the wise commander, never provided the slightest visible reaction to anything. Why willingly add any more weapons to the resources of the opposition? So Crom simply stood there and waited for Ryan to say whatever he had to say, or even more likely, to do whatever he was going to do. Comfortable? Ryan said at last. I would have preferred to provide you with some more elegant means of restraint, but your formidable ability to drain electricity and power from any power source mandates a less technological or primitive means of restraint. Crom said nothing. It has been a while, General, said Ryan. You must have assumed that I had forgotten about it. Or do you simply assume that you are, in fact, unforgettable? I assume nothing. That is most wise. You are indeed a wise individual, General. The only lapse in your wisdom was who you chose to serve. We do not always make our choices. Sometimes they are made for us. I don't believe it, said Ryan. I am very much suspect that you do not. We hold our futures in our hands at all times, just as you hold our future in yours. I have a future? Although it was intended to sound like a question, the constant monotone with which he spoke flattened the sentence out. He sounded as if he were talking about someone else, and that his fate was only something to be considered in the abstract. Yes. A future in this cell, or a future that involves abrupt termination by you. There is a third option. You intend to release me? Under the proper circumstances. Crom did not even have to ask. Vice were fealty to you? That is correct. You are a being of infinite time and resources, Wilhelm Ryan. Because of that, you naturally have at your disposal the option to waste as much of both as you wish. And you are suggesting that proposing you join my endeavors would be a waste? I am not suggesting it. I am saying it outright. Ryan studied, remained unmoving. They could both have been carved out of granite for all the emotion that either of them displayed. To whom do you think you are proving your loyalty? Ryan said at last. To Marth? He's dead. To your soldiers? Dead. Everyone who gives a damn about which side you're on is dead. So what are you hoping to accomplish? If they are dead, what reason have I to be alive? I have no interest in your survivor's guilt. Guilt does not prey on my mind. It is simply that I have a responsibility to the men who trust in me. If they are not here, I owe them. Ryan's eyes widened as he shot back at him, finding it difficult to grasp the concept of loyalty to anything. You owe them nothing. Your responsibilities to them ended the moment they breathed their last. Your only allegiance is to yourself. The fact is, General, I admire. Admire? The slight uptick in his voice was as close as Crom could come to expressing incredulity. You admire me? Perhaps admire is too strong. Having a lessened predisposition to destroy you is probably more accurate. But alas, there is no single word to summarize that. You possess one of the foremost military intellects in existence. To annihilate you would be a waste of material, especially when I can use all the allies I can acquire. In case word has not reached you in this hellhole, there are some who believe that God himself has issued a challenge. You refer to the Black Rainbow, yes? Even down here, there has been word of the phenomenon. Your thoughts, General? My thoughts would be that if there is a God, and he is indeed challenging you, then being opposed to him is a foolish undertaking. Beyond that, I have no thoughts on it. If there is a God, said Ryan, Then he draws his strength from having believers.
If you say so.
What, then, is God's weakness?
Obviously, to deprive him of his believers.
Crom stared levelly at Ryan.
What are you saying, Wilhelm Ryan? That your plan of attack, in order to thwart an assault from on high, would be to destroy the population of Heaven's Fence?
Yes.
You could not.
I could.
Would not.
I will, said Ryan. And I am curious as to why you would think that I would hesitate in that endeavor. After all that you have seen, after all that you know that I am capable of, what makes you believe that I would stop short of annihilating every living, breathing creature upon Heaven's Fence?
If you did that, then what was the point of it all? Why conquer individuals if not to rule them? Your vast war becomes an empty exercise.
Only if the purpose of the war is to rule these people, these insects. They are insignificant, General, except in ways that they are able to serve me as raw material. Mutually assured destruction, my dear. For God to shake off the ennui, which prevents him from doing anything other than putting on celestial light shows, if he were to confront me directly, to attempt to annihilate me, then everyone dies. Me, his believers, him, all gone in a massive burst of cosmic destruction. If God wants to precipitate it, by all means, let him. His voice dropped to a whisper as he envisioned the ultimate holocaust that, for that moment, existed only in his imagination, and rained down fire and us all. It will be this.
You are insane.
Insanity is simply sanity with new rules. Consider that, General. While you're doing so, consider this as well. If I have the ability to destroy the keywork in all life upon Heaven's Fence, God is not going to want to see me pushed to that level. Someone who's one step ahead of God is interested in having you on his side. There are certainly worse places to be. He glanced around the room. Such as here. And General, one last thought. You've spoken much of how your devotion to God and to an ideal and to a vast and grand purpose to which you are still devoted. Would you like to know what I think?
It is of no relevance to me.
I think, said Ryan, as if he'd been prompted, that it has nothing to do with or faith or anything as grand as the cosmos. I don't even think that this is about your loyalty to Marth, although naturally you can tell yourself that all you wish. I think that this is about loyalty to yourself and your own ego. You absolutely cannot deal with the fact you chose the losing side. If that is the case, and I believe that it is, then this is easily remedied. Consider how your ego will benefit by serving me. You would be regarded as the greatest military man in the history of the fence. He held up his hands as if he were framing a huge lettering in a sign that stretched out across the unseen horizon. Admiral Valor Crom, the first admiral in the history of the keyword. If I had tears to weep, I would truly shed them, just thinking about something as majestic as that. Think about it. Take your time. You have nothing. He disappeared once more, and this time he did not do it immediately. Instead, he did it slowly, and the last thing to vanish into the air was glowering eyes that remained fixed upon Crom for some time before finally vanishing into nothingness. So there's no asterisks here, but the font changes and it's now bold and italic. And last time this happened, we did a deep flashback to the Mage Wars. So probably mage fights. This is a lot. Okay. You're backing Gandalf? Yeah, he's hard to bet against. I'm backing Paranoia because it seems fun. So that's the end of chapter 10. I guess Coheed and Cambria aren't actually in love. They're just hypothetically kind of in love. And it also seems like Coheed loves Cambria, but Cambria is neutral. What are we talking about? Oh, it was so violent in the beginning and so many people exploded and nobody's exploded for the last 6 chapters. And there's not as much gore as there was. I remember when I was uploading the first couple of VODs to YouTube, I felt kind of bad because I was like, major trigger warning, there's a bunch of gore. I mean, it's fictional gore, but it's still there. And it's detailed and it's graphic. So but I feel like there hasn't been any gore And even with Coheed's blade arms in chapter 9, it was less detailed than how they explained it in chapter 1. He was all like, so much. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I really appreciated it. If you want to help keep making these things happen and have some input, you can always join the Discord. You can find the Discord link probably somewhere on my Twitch main profile. If you just want to be up to date on when I'm streaming and what I'm streaming and other live performances that you can catch me doing, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at bizarre_Bryn. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Oh, if you go watch the YouTubes, comment and like those because it helps the algorithm somehow. Oh, and if you found my nonsense through Claudio Sanchez's Instagram share, that's really awesome, and I'm really glad that you're here. I hope it's everything I expected it to be, I guess. Subscribe here. Oh, and if you subscribe on Twitch, then you can slide into my DMs and I'll mail you a sticker. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Anyway. Well, good night, everybody. I love you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to this story. It's a good time. And it's good sci-fi nerd weirdness. And maybe there's some great sci-fi nerd weirdness that you want me to read. So now that we're halfway through this book, you can throw me some suggestions of other authors you like that I don't know anything about. Bananas. Before we get started, let's talk about my Play-Doh. Oh no. Bucket of foam and friends. We talked about this in chapter 5. Last week, I had a clown gig on Wednesday night, May the 1st. Also, happy May Day, happy May 1st. It's a big day in circus world. And I had an awesome gig with Kathy's circle of friends. Anyway, that was about an hour away from my house, so I didn't get home until about midnight on Wednesday night. And we had to leave for St. Louis at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. Fun story. I had not packed for St. Louis. So I'm in clown face packing for this trip to St. Louis at midnight when I have to leave at 8 a.m. And I realized that whoever did the laundry last left it in the washer for too long, so it all smells funny. And if you know me, you know I hate smelling bad. I don't mind a little bit of like human funk. Human funk happens. Everybody gets human funk. But actual just like stinkiness, I don't do that. So when I found out that all of the laundry that I assumed was clean was actually stinky, I cried. So I was crying on the couch with laundry in clown face at midnight, just exhausted, trying to pack. I have no idea what I packed. I threw a bunch of things in a bag and took my tour like hygiene kit and just hoped for the best. And it went okay. We drove to St. Louis. We were there. We actually slept in the Jeep on Thursday night. That was fun. And then we were in St. Louis and we did St. Louis things. And then I flew back yesterday. Things I learned. You can't check your bags more than 4 hours before your flight. Anyway, I got into Philly last night at midnight 30, something like that, when I finally got home and went to sleep and lived my life, and it was great. And now we're here today. What was I going to say? Oh, so last Wednesday before my clown gig, I was playing with my Floam, doing some office work before I had to put on clown face, and I left a chunk of it out, and I was excited because I was like, oh, I wonder if it like got hard, and it didn't get hard. It actually didn't dry out at all. I mean, I guess it dried out some. It's just very sticky now, and it sticks to me, and I don't like to be sticky either.